Hello, and welcome to the WECU On-Demand First-Time Homebuyer Webinar. My name is Nicholas, and I am the Real Estate Loan Production Manager here at WECU. Our panel has a lot of great information to share with you today, and I hope you're ready to take some notes. Okay, let's get into it. I'll hand it off to our first speaker.
Hi, everyone. My name is Tatiana Genovesi, and I'm a real estate loan officer here at WECU. In today's webinar, we're going to share a lot of information, but we want to tell you one thing. Buying a home does not need to be complicated. We want to break down the process and make it as simple as possible to understand so you are empowered and ready to buy your first home. There are several benefits to home ownership. Most people know that they're paying rent. They'll never see that money again. It's essentially gone forever. When you buy a home, on the other hand, a portion of that money you pay every month goes towards the principal or the actual ownership amount of the home. Over time, your home's value can increase, and of course, it can decrease as well. But here, check this out. Over the last 100 years, housing prices have increased in the United States. This chart goes back to 1970 and is inflation adjusted. Those gray lines in the back are the recessions. Now, admittedly, we are not economists, so please take this as you will. But what the chart tells me is that over time, housing prices have increased, and even during those recessions, all but the Great Recession, housing prices have continued on this trend. There are certain tax benefits to owning a home. Namely, you can deduct mortgage interest, property taxes, and PMI, all things we'll talk about later on. Now, this would mean for most people, you would switch from taking the standard deductions on your taxes to actually itemizing. But make sure you speak with a tax professional for advice, especially if this is your first time. There are quite a few steps with buying a home. So let's take a look at the journey to home ownership. It starts with getting yourself financially ready, saving for down payment, having sufficient income. Next is getting yourself ready to make an offer on a home. So meeting with a lender and a realtor, getting pre-approved, getting a pre-approval letter, which in today's market is incredibly essential to do before making an offer. Then the home itself, followed by inspections and appraisals. And lastly, closing and signing at title. I know this sounds like a lot, but that just goes to show why it's so important to have the right team. You need a team that you can trust to provide you with guidance to make the right decisions along the way. Throughout this webinar, we'll do our best to walk you through each of these steps. A question that we get asked all the time is, how long does the process take? And the reality is that it usually takes a lot longer than most people even realize. The chart below is just a guide. Let's say, for instance, you already have a home in mind. That home search just got a lot shorter. Or let's say your offer is accepted the very next day. That would shorten things as well. But the process can also be longer than expected. Some people look for the right home for 6 months to even a year. Each situation is unique, and there are several variables that can speed up or even slow down the process. So it's always good to be mindful of that. As I mentioned already, the first step to buying a home is getting financially ready. You want to make sure that you'll get approved for a mortgage, and you want to make sure that that mortgage is everything you want it to be. When it comes to getting financially ready, there are 4 areas to pay attention to. The first area is your debt to income ratio, which is the amount of income that goes towards debts every single month. The second area is savings for a down payment and for closing costs. You want to make sure that you put enough down to keep your monthly payment in a range that you are comfortable with. Third area is ensuring that your job history is long enough to use. Typically, lenders like to see you in a job for at least 2 years to show that you have stable income. And finally, your credit score. Let's talk about this one a little bit more. Credit scores tell your lender how reliable of a borrower you are. They range from 300 to 850, with most consumers having scores between 600 and 750. The better the credit score, the more likely it is you're going to be pre-approved for a loan. Some questions to ask yourself are, when was the last time you learned about your credit score? Are you aware of what it is? Now, let's take a look at what makes up a credit score and how you can influence it. Realistically, we could talk about credit for hours, but here's a quick overview of what makes up your score. If you look at the pie chart, you can see that it is broken down into 5 categories. First category is types of debt. How diversified is your credit report? Do you only have credit cards or do you have a mix of cards, personal loans, and auto loans? Creditors prefer to see a couple different types of loans. Payment history. Do you always make your payments on time or have you ever missed any payments? Amounts owed. Do you maintain high balances on your credit cards or do you pay them off every single month? How long have you been in debt? Creditors want to see that you have responsibly been using debt for a number of years. And last but not least, new debt. Have you taken out a lot of new debt recently? If so, for what? Do you have a lot of credit inquiries? Creditors don't typically want to see too many inquiries in a short amount of time. We wouldn't suggest applying for new loans once you get a pre-approval letter. You want to maintain your credit score through the home loan process as it is. As you can see, there are quite a few pieces that go into making up your score. But to summarize it all, you want to show that you've used your debt well and that you haven't taken on more debt than your income can support. Now, before I go, this piece, the amounts owed piece, is really important, and I want to draw your attention to it one more time. There's a number of things that go into this, and there is a lot of misconception around it. Some people think that it's a great idea to max out their credit cards as soon as they get them. And then other people think that it's a great idea to never use a credit card once they've opened it. But when you speak with one of our loan officers, we can talk about this piece in depth. We can also talk about your credit score and general tips and tricks to give you the right steps for how to improve your credit score over time. Now we're going to move forward with our next speaker.
Hi, my name is Young Lee. I'm a senior real estate loan officer at WECU. Okay, let's talk about the down payment. How much do you need to save to buy your first home? That's really up to you. The typical down payment to avoid private mortgage insurance is 20%. But if you qualify, WECU can offer 5% or even 0% down options. Besides the down payment, there will be closing costs to consider. So, what are closing costs and how much are they? Closing costs are all the technical costs associated with buying a house, like the inspection fee, appraisal fee, application fee, mortgage origination fee, lots of other fees. By the way, we recommend an inspection by a licensed professional before buying a home. Closing costs are loan and property specific. In most cases, closing costs can be 2 to 5% of the home's purchase price. That can be significant. Please meet with a WECU real estate loan officer to get an estimate of your total out-of-pocket or closing costs. There are a few options to try to lower your closing costs. 1, using points. Points are costs or credits associated with each rate option. The base rate for your loan type will have 0 or the lowest fee in points. You can pay additional points to lower your interest rate or receive a credit or negative points for taking a higher interest rate. Points are calculated as a percentage of the loan amount. So there's a trade-off when you use points. Pay more upfront and then less in interest payments throughout the lifetime of your loan, or pay upfront and more in interest payments throughout the life of the loan. It will depend upon your current financial situation and how long you intend to live in the home. 2, for some loan products like USDA, you may be able to decrease your cash to close by adding the closing costs to the loan. Let's say you are buying a home for $400,000 and the closing costs are $5,000. You could increase the loan amount to $405,000. The caveat is the home must appraise for $405,000 or more. If not, the closing costs cannot be added to the loan. 3, you can ask for seller credit for some of the closing costs. It's good if you could get it, but with this option, it's not feasible in a hot real estate market where sellers receive multiple offers. So come see us. We can game plan to see what's best for you. The last piece of upfront money I want to highlight is the earnest money. This is the amount that you will be willing to put down as a deposit if your offer is accepted. A strong earnest money deposit shows the seller that you are serious about buying the home. You will give the earnest money to the title company, and the funds will be credited to you when your home purchase contract closes. You'll work with your realtor to decide how much earnest money you want to put down with your offer. You don't have to deposit the money until your offer is accepted. You'll work with your realtor and they will discuss all the different options. Please note, there's a risk that you can lose your earnest money in some cases if you back out of the deal. This will be spelled out in the contract. Now that you've been working hard to build your savings and think you're ready to buy your first home, your next step is to get pre-approved. This is especially helpful in a competitive market. Like me, you are constantly looking at Zillow or Redfin to see what's out there. Yes, it's very common for people to get excited and start shopping right away. That's the fun part, isn't it? Plus, it's easy to download one of the apps and start scrolling and dreaming. But it's not what we recommend. The main reason we suggest getting pre-approved before seriously shopping is to know what you can afford. It would be sad to fall in love with a house and then realize you can't get approved for the loan. If you're pre-approved, you'll know what you could shop for and how much you'll need to save for your down payment and closing costs. So, how much can you actually afford? This is an important question. Afford and get approved for are two very different things. The reality is most people are surprised by how much they can get approved for. That's because your financial approval is based on the percentage of your overall debts compared to your gross income each month. Your total debt to income ratio, or DTI, should be less than 45%. But requirements can vary depending upon the loan program. Your taxes and benefits withheld, monthly expenses like internet, utilities, and food, and discretionary spending like travel and entertainment are not considered in this calculation because they are not debts and can vary depending on the borrower. But these expenses do influence your disposable income. So afford is a question that comes down to you. How much money do you need to maintain your quality of life after paying your mortgage and other debts?
Hi there, I'm John from WECU's real estate department. As mentioned, there are a lot of things that make up your mortgage payment. There are potentially 5 items. Principal, which is the actual money going towards paying down your loan. Interest, which is paid as part of the loan. Property taxes, paid to the county you live in. Homeowner's insurance, which covers you in the event of damage or theft. Private mortgage insurance, or PMI. Also, something to remember is that you will have utility bills which go on top of the above items. Now, I mentioned PMI a moment ago. PMI, which stands for private mortgage insurance, is an insurance that you, the borrower, have to pay to protect your lender from the risk of you defaulting on your mortgage. On a conventional mortgage, you'll be required to have PMI if you put less than 20% down. PMI generally can equate to $30 to $70 per month for every $100,000 you borrow. The nice thing is that depending on the type of mortgage, it can go away. More on that later. There are a lot of types of mortgages: USDA, FHA, VA, jumbo, construction, and renovation. They all come with different interest rates, down payment requirements, PMI, etc. You'll want to work with a lender who can help you decide what makes the most sense for you. All right, moving along to getting pre-approved. The lender is going to be looking at 4 main things: credit history. Have you made all your payments on time? Affordability. What debts do you have, will you have, and do you have income to support those? Equity or down payment. What do you have to put down for the purchase? The property type. Are you buying a single family residence, a condo, a multi-unit property? Of course, I'm simplifying the 4 items, but without a doubt, these are reviewed in detail by all lenders. Depending on the market, there can be higher or lower competition for homes. If there are a lot of buyers and few sellers, homes will sell more quickly. If there are a lot of sellers and fewer buyers, homes will take longer to sell. When homes are taking longer to sell, that puts the buyers at an advantage. They might be able to offer less for the home, and in some cases, get the sellers to cover some of their closing costs. If they're selling quickly, sellers are going to get top dollar and also have the ability to choose from the multiple offers they receive. This is a critical thing to consider when deciding on your loan type, payment amount, and the real estate agent you work with. So, continuing on, after you make an offer and it's accepted, you will have a signed purchase and sale agreement. At that point, you'll work with your lender and real estate agent to move through the closing process. During the initial stages, you're going to schedule a home inspection and line up homeowners insurance. We, as your lender, will check in with you after the inspection, order your appraisal, make sure the title of the property is good, and check whether it's in a flood zone. The lender will also work with the escrow company that is on your purchase and sale agreement. Closing is the last step, and here's how it works. Based on your purchase and sale agreement, closing will be scheduled at an agreed upon date. You will receive a closing disclosure at least 3 business days prior to signing. Your loan documents will be sent to the title company. You will bring in a cashier's check or wire the closing funds to the escrow company. You will sign in person at the title company or with a mobile notary. Expect signing to take approximately an hour. All right, that's all for me. Now on to our last speaker of this webinar.
Okay, we have fire hosed you with information. I know it's a lot, but now is the exciting part. Now is where you take your first step to buying a home. Your next step is to schedule a sit-down Zoom meeting with one of our loan officers on our team. Even if you feel you're a couple years out from buying a home, this is a great first step to getting your questions answered. There's a ton of value in sitting down with our team. First, we'll do a readiness assessment. That'll really help gauge how financially ready you are to buy a home. Then, if you're feeling ready, we can show you what some personalized loan options might look like. How much will the payment be? How much cash do I have to come up with? And finally, we'll be here to answer all of your personal questions. I mentioned personalized options. When you come in, we're going to put something together like what you see above. We've been told over and over that this sort of illustration is very helpful for a first-time home buyer because you'll be able to see in dollars and cents what you need to come up with and what sort of payment you'll need. The last thing I want to talk about is why you should choose WECU. First of all, WECU is a not-for-profit, and therefore we are motivated to serve you, not enrich our bottom line. Secondly, more than 80% of home loans are sold. At WECU, we always retain our servicing, so you'll always be able to work with us and have your questions answered along the way. And that is peace of mind to a lot of people. Thank you so much for attending today's webinar. Click on the link below to schedule a meeting today.